Hey guys, it's Emiliya here and welcome to Journal Engineer. I'm kinda sick while recording this voiceover, so excuse me about my voice, but if I stay at home and do nothing, I'm just gonna get crazy, so yeah, I decided to record something for you guys. I can't believe that it's already 2023 and it's time again to do January. Life and journals are a never-ending cycle. In this video, you're gonna see how I set up my cover page, my monthly organization page, my social planner, and a weekly spread. We have a lot to cover up, so let's begin. Before we dive into the January theme, here you can see part of my yearly 2023 setup. If you missed that video, you can check out the links in the description. So if you have been here in a while, you probably know that for 2023 I decided to do black and white theme journal. So basically all of my themes will be black and white throughout the year, and some of them may have just one side cover but not the main one. Usually my January themes are always cosmic themed with planets, Milky Way and stuff, and this was the initial plan for this year as well, until I went to the cinema with my family to watch Avatar 2: The Way of Water. The movie is one of the best movies of the year in my opinion. The story and mostly the message touched me in a way that not many movies do, but I'm gonna talk about this later, of course with no spoilers, so if you haven't watched it yet, you'll be safe here, no spoilers. After we left the cinema, I knew that my January theme would be Avatar related, but I wasn't so sure how. I mean, the entire Avatar's movie cover is blue, obviously, and mine is black and white. It was quite a challenge to decide what to do until I saw this photo here and it immediately spoke to me. The animal you see there is Tulkun, one of the most beautiful animals from the movie this year. It's like an alien wow, and watching these animals in the movie felt like just watching magic. Here you can see a few snippets from the Avatar trailer to see how magnificent are they. I really like this picture, but because I can't make such colorful drawings in my black and white journal, I needed to be more creative. First, with a pencil, I drew the Tulkun on the page. It is rather a basic drawing just to help me visualize what I will have on that page. The purpose of this sketch was fully illustrative because then I covered it with black Indian ink. This type of ink is very suitable for covering purposes like this because it dries very quickly and does not soak up deep into the page, which makes it very paper friendly. You can find all the supplies that I'm using, by the way, in the links in the description below. I put 2 draft sheets under the pages to prevent myself from covering the pages underneath. You know, I really like to mess up my pages, so I'm trying to protect that this time. The important thing here is that I try to move the brush only from the inside to the outside. In this way there is no danger for me of folding the page and covering black the back side as well. After I finish covering, I put 4 clips to keep the page from folding until the ink dries completely. My plan is to draw a jumping whale as here in the picture. Unfortunately, I cannot make the stunning background only using black and white, so I decided to leave it black and to simulate a night. However, the part under the water I'm gonna leave light, and there I'm gonna draw with black pen over white sheet. In this way the cover will look much more interesting, and I will also show both worlds, the one under the water and the one above the water. Kind of like a yin yang, if I can put more meaning into this page. Since my whale sketch stayed under the black layer, I quickly redraw it. I only draw the main lines to guide me, so the Tulkun has good body proportions. You probably remember that I'm not that good with white gel pens. I mean, they basically don't work in my hands, I don't know why. So today I'm gonna use something a little bit more different to paint with white, namely a fountain pen with white ink. Years ago I used to paint a lot with this type of ink and on the black background. And I can say that this is the most saturated white ink I have ever used. The only drawback is that I have to dip the nib in the ink tank relatively often, like a brush basically. I start with the most basic outlines of the Tulkun. Except for the 2 large horns on its head, its body largely resembles that of normal whale. For this I help myself with other whale drawings to achieve more realistic result. To draw the Tulkun, I needed to remember 2 important features, and the first one is that I have to separate the head from the body. Both the whale and the toucan have proportion in the body, and that is that the head is almost a third of the entire length of the body. The second one is that the toucan has armor on the back. Because of that, his skin is stiffer than a normal whale skin, and there is also a slight overlap here right between the pages. You can see like the head is separated from the rest of the body. The toucan also have two large fins like our whales, right? And also have two small fins further towards the head. In particular, this toucan exactly that I'm drawing right now is missing one front small fin, and this in my opinion is very important detail that I really want to include in my drawing. If you have watched the movie, you will know why. If you haven't watched the movie yet, I'm just gonna leave it to it. Before continuing with the rest of the drawing, I decided to write the name of the month, January, and a calendar with the avatar font. It was a lot harder than I expected because the avatar font has pretty straight lines, but they themselves are slightly cut on the inside, you can see here. This would be very difficult to achieve with a pen like mine, however, I tried to mimic the effect by making a bit zigzag lines and not just straight lines, but yeah, I think it could be better. Actually, this is the font from the first movie. The font from the second movie is more like both. A curious fact about the first one is that the first font was not specifically designed for the Avatar movie. It was just a font that can be found in Microsoft Word and is called Font Papyrus. Now that I'm done with the calendar, it's time to do all the details on the toucan. First, I add these long growths, which to be honest I have no idea what they're for, but they look great, like really alienish. As you know, in the Avatar universe, many of the animals have two pairs of eyes. Toucans are no exceptions, and that's why I'm adding them. While I was drawing the eyes, I noticed that some lines were fading out on the black background, so I repeated them again, but this time with more saturated color so that they remain white. One of the most important things about this drawing is the water. After all, this is a whale coming out of the water, and it would look really strange if there are no splashes. At first I wasn't quite sure how to make the drops, so I experimented with different styles. I tried with more oblong ones that fall down, but somehow I didn't like them. And then I tried with round drops, but they didn't fit well either. At times like this, when my mind can't figure out what to do with given drawing part, it is a sign that I need to leave that part for a moment, break away from it and do something else. When my brain goes to another task and then returns to the original tasks, I see differently and different ideas come to me. So I decorate the horns of the toucan very slightly so that they acquire some color and not be just black. This is important because in the color picture, if you can see, the horns are the only contrasting parts of the animal. As you can see here, they're red. The toucan also has these interesting markings on its head that look like teeth, but they really have nothing to do with the mouth itself. Such elements are quite difficult to recreate, especially if you're recreating black and white drawing from a full color picture as I do right now. I tried very lightly to outline them with dots to see how they would look, but they didn't fit well. Because of the two-dimensional picture that I draw, they look more like teeth than an ornament from the animal's body. But what we said earlier, when something doesn't go well, we leave it for a moment and go do something else. For this, I went back to the water drops problem and I added a few more drops. I feel like the idea there is becoming more clear to me, but I needed a little bit more time before I decided what I wanted to do with them. That's why I started decorating the whale itself. I can't leave it all black as it would look very flat and two-dimensional. However, there is no way I can draw super detailed textures on it because the pen can make such thin lines, just the technology doesn't allow me. For that I settled on something in the middle, a rather stylish coloring with dots and lines on the back, next to the water drops. These lines are quite important because they make the transition from the dark body of the toucan to the many light drops smooth and pleasant. On the other hand, the lines have completely different shape than the dots, obviously because they're lines, and that's why the body of the whale is clearly demarcated from the drops and it's not just one big white mess on a black background. I continue with similar lines on the stomach. In Avatar, the toucan does not have such lines as the whales on our planet, but in order to get good contrast and color distribution, I had to add something white on the belly. Meanwhile, the concept of the falling drops became quite clear to me, and I began to add drops to the work parts of the whale that had just came out of the water. I add thick drops right next to the lines and small ones that are falling down. On the underside where drops are falling into the water, I also put a few white dots because the water is splashing, from the water falling from the whale. I again repeat the main contours so that they have more saturated white color. Something that I see is that the fins are very dark right now. Because of that, I simply add parallel lines to give them a little bit of volume, and then I start adding the drops that fall down. You see, it's not difficult at all. I mix small drops, large drops, so that the drawings looks more magical. I go back to the head where I repeat the tooth-shaped ornament and I put some decorative lines on the head to continue the lines from the back. I add drops to the head and the small fin. With that, the toucan is ready, or at least the part above the water. Under the water, I will make its tail, some corals and other animals. I started with the tail and it's quite difficult to draw because it's not a typical whale tail as you can see here in the pictures. It's kinda like quadruple tail. However, once I have the basic outline of the tail, I get down to the other stuff. I draw a small animal that doesn't look like anything familiar, but it's another wonderful creature from the movie. I didn't remember its name, so yeah, you're gonna see it there. I will draw the rest of the white part of the page, the underwater part of the page, with some simple corals. The first type is very easy because it can be done with just one continuous line that curves and branches. Corals themselves have very strange shapes all the time, and even if you make mistake somewhere, just won't be visible, so no worries. I'm making a few more such colors on the page, and then I take a quick permanent marker and overline the tail of the toucan to make it more thicker. My goal for that tail is the white line above the water that I'm outlining the toucan with to have the same size as the black line below the water that I'm outlining the tail with. In this way, there will be equal contrast between the two parts, the white and the black one, and the tail would appear more like monolithic with the animal. With the same marker, I bow the corals as well. I also start painting the rest of the corals, choosing the species from different pictures on Google and Pinterest. While I'm coloring, I want to say a few words about the movie, of course, without spoilers. I really want to say that this maybe is the most beautiful movie I have seen in a while, maybe since the last Avatar. And by beautiful, I mean like visual effects beautiful. I mean, it's just a magic for my senses. But something that I really like the most and actually touched me is the message of the movie, that we're basically messing up with our nature. James Cameron always likes to put something nature related in his movies, and how we, the humanity, basically destroy our planet. And oh my god, guys, if you watch this movie, at some point you're gonna be angry. I was pissed while I was watching this movie at some point because of the stupid shit that people are making on the Pandora. And the ugly thing is that the same thing is happening on our planet, and James Cameron showed this by a really visual way. So I think that nowadays we're so flooded with those action movies, Marvel universe and DC universe and all these world saviors, that we kind of forget our planet. We forget the simple things that make movies, the simple stories, and we always want something more and more action, but in the real life is not like this. Life is just the small things, the small families, and all the daily stuff that we do. And somehow Avatar showed me again the beauty of this world. I don't know, maybe I sound like crazy, but this is just my look at the movie. I really enjoyed it, and honestly, it's just the movie. It's worth it, guys. You just need to go see it in the cinemas. And the 3D, and the last thing that I'm gonna say, because I'm an engineer and I also see the technical part of the movie, the 3D is one of the best 3Ds that I've ever seen. Like, usually in the 3D movies, you have something that is moving to you, and back then, because it's 3D, but I don't know how the people that are making Avatar just accomplishing this amazing quality of the 3D. Like, I was sure that all these dragons and whales are in front of me in movie salon. So just 10 out of 10 with the technology, guys. Before I finish the page, I make the waves with slightly thicker pen so that the transition from dark to light becomes more even and not as if it's cut with a knife. And that's the end of the page, guys. I think it turned out great, even better than I expected. If you like this video so far, don't forget to give it a like or even subscribe to the channel. I'm posting once a month, so I will not spam your homepage a lot. We flip to the monthly page. It took me a very short time to make it, maybe because I didn't draw a entire wave on it. Well, usually these types of pages are the same in my journal, you know, each month they're the same because it's simply I found what works for me. On the left side I have monthly fields such as month at a glance, monthly goals, and major expenses. My major expenses are very useful because they give me an idea of how much it costs for me to live normally without keeping track on the little things like, I don't know, sweets, tea, beer. Inside I enter things like rent, electricity, water, some home supplies, just the basic things or the most expensive things for the month. From the right field is a brain dump, but in different months, the right field actually is a different thing, a different page depending on what I need for the specific month. You must have noticed the black box down here, right? Yes, you guessed it right, we're going to draw there. This time a Pandora horse. I made 2 attempts at painting. The first one was a bit of failure, and for your sake I will get through it quickly. In general, the proportions of the horse did not look good to me, and I was already quite tired because it was late. The beauty of the black background is that I can always put a paint on it and just start anew. That's what I did. But I finished for this evening, so I started it on the next day. In the evening of the next day, I was fresh and started directly with the horse, but I was too lazy to make mistakes, so I decided to spend a little bit more time to outline the first sketch with a pencil. Another useful thing that happened during these 24 hours of rest is that I found my eraser, guys. Finally. Usually when I draw a horse, I find it much easier to start with the head because it's easier for me to follow the proportions of the body. For this I did the man and back first. The man of the horses in Avatar is rather a solid continuation of the neck, and for that I draw it more like steady and monolithic piece. If you notice, you'll see that it continues down to the spine like a shield, like those small shields, so I just make sure to draw them down. Another important difference is the front part of the horse muzzle, which has an oval shape without eye sockets like our Earth horses. And in general, his muzzle is more elongated. The front legs are 4 in number. They're not so hard to draw. Just immediately after the first pair, we draw the second one. Actually, in this picture, there are 3 legs visible here because the 4th one, or the front back leg, is hidden by the other 2. Another typical feature of these horses is that they're very muscular, which means that the upper part of the legs must be very strong and voluminous. I also do the breast larger. You can see how much the breasts stick out against the back of the body. I add small decorations such as these blue stripes on the paws and the mane, then I repeat the basic contours again for more contrast. I also add some more shadows where the horse body shadows its skin. As the white dots from the previous page gave things a very magical feel, I really wanted to add them here too, but I didn't know where, so for that I drew some little grass on the front of the horse for these magical white fireflies to come out of. With this we finish this page. I think it has become very beautiful and I would even say minimalistic for my expectations. The third page I will make in this form is a social planner. I will do this for the first time, so I have no idea if it's gonna work for me, but yeah, I decided that I need such help. It will consist of 6 columns, each with 31 rows, as many as days of the month. Each of the columns will be responsible for one social profile, be it on YouTube, Facebook or Instagram. In this big calendar, I will write on which days from which account I will have to post something. Well, don't leave the impression that I have 6 Instagram profiles, it's not like this. I have one Instagram profile for my bullet journal, I have my YouTube channel that you're watching right now, I have my personal Instagram profile, and from work I have Instagram profile and Facebook profile that I just manage because work, you know. The 6th column is gonna be a wildcard, it depends what I need. I will fill this page with the seeds of Eywa, beautiful flying creatures that are present in the first avatar and the second avatar. They're extremely gentle and lovely. If you haven't seen the first avatar, it will look like a little flying spiders to you, but I would define them more like a aero jellyfish. You can see a sneak peek at the trailer for what they look like. And on the next weekly page, I'm gonna draw them bigger so you can see them more detailed. The last thing that I do on this page is to mark all the weekends with Faber-Castell pen to make it easier for me to navigate throughout the month and the days. With that, we have finished the page and I turn to the last one that we'll do in this video. I glued two washi tapes and cover the black in the middle. I have to admit that this black background is very satisfying to make, and just look at the peeling of the tape afterwards, guys. Perfection. I start by painting the seeds of Eywa. At first they may seem quite complicated to draw, but in reality they're composed of very simple lines. First we have seed itself, which represents by a rhombus. Two feathers come out of it, then many small hairs like jellyfish tentacles come out of the upper side. It is easiest to draw the outermost two lines, so I start with them. I make them oval shape, kinda like unfinished heart. At their lower end we also draw small rhombuses, then we start painting the rest. Now I'm gonna show you something really important. Notice that each line in the beginning goes higher than the first one and only then descends. In this way a volume effect is created. You can see it better on the next seed that I'm gonna draw. Again, we make the seed itself, then I start with the tentacles. You can see the first line that I'm drawing right now, and the second one first is going upper than the first one and then is going down. Yep, it's that easy. As I want this seed to be a little bit more strange than the others, and I make it a little bit fluffier as if it had been blown by the wind. The third seed is very similar to the first one, but it has a little bit different curves. On the lower part, as you see, the curve is to the inside, but this is not the original shape of the seeds, it's more like the first one that we drew, so if you're recreating this, just keep in mind to look at the first seed that we did. It's not super important, but keep it in mind. Then I spread out a few dots and we're done with the drawing. As this is gonna be a weekly spread, I add a calendar in the top left corner, and the right part where I have space left to the drawing I'm gonna leave for trackers. And I add the weekly names like Monday, Friday, and I'm gonna leave a space for weeklies. It was very impulsive idea of mine to draw all this. I hope you like it, guys. The rest of the weekly spreads I'm gonna post as a reels or shorts or stories, I have no idea, so you can follow me on my social medias or here in YouTube so you can be up to date of what I do. Write in the comments what you think about this theme. I'll be really curious to find out, or if you have watched Avatar, I'll be happy to hear what you think of the movie. And yeah, so I think that's all for now, guys. Thank you for staying till the end and see you next time. Until then, don't forget to stay on the sunny side.